So guys, it is that time of the week again, and we are back with our weekly championship score prediction. So game week 2, and we do have some absolute crackers coming up this weekend. So as always, get your score predictions in the comments down below for a chance to be involved in the next video. And just before we do hop into anything, a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you can find the new OneFootball app in the top line of the description down below. As we are now heading into this new season, OneFootball is a really handy app to have if you want to get live updates to your phone whenever a goal does go in this new championship season. Also, if you want to get all the recent news and speculation going on around your club, with the transfer window still open, we got a lot of business going on around the championship, some of which we'll be discussing throughout today's video. You can also now watch selected UEFA Champions League and UEFA Europa League qualifying matches for free over on the app, so check it out in the link down below. But apart from that, let's crack on with these predictions. So if you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Let's hop into it. And so starting out with tonight's game, that sees Coventry going up against QPR. It's still going to take me a bit of time to get used to Coventry playing at St Andrews, but an interesting game nonetheless. Coventry did lose on the opening weekend, but was a decent performance. I thought they put in against Bristol City. It was just two real lapses in concentration towards the start and end of the match, which ended up losing it. You know, they had spells in that game where they were on top. They created several chances. Matty Godden got off the mark with his first goal of the season as well. But this QPR side is going to be a tricky one. They beat Nottingham Forest on the opening day. Really good performance from Lyndon Dykes. I think that he's going to be a really effective player for them this season, not only for his goal scoring prowess, but also bringing some of their other creative players into play. So it's going to be an interesting one. I don't think there'll be all too much in this one tonight. Coventry in the second half of that game against Bristol City just seemed to run out of steam a little bit towards the end of the match. So the last 20 or so minutes is when QPR could really turn it up for this one. Obviously, we know they've got those players with pace who really can look to exploit Coventry in wide areas, especially if their fullbacks and wing-backs that Coventry like to play are pushing on a little bit. For a score prediction though, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Don't think there'll be all too much in this one, whereas FIFA is backing QPR for all 3 points with a 1-0 away victory. Next up to Forest against Cardiff. Now each side needing a result from this one after neither got off to a great start, probably both of the underachievers of last weekend. Forest losing against QPR and Cardiff being disappointed against Sheffield Wednesday. Now in Forest match, I mean, they did have several chances to get back into it. Lewis Graben had a handful of them, 3 golden opportunities, neither of which he could find the back of the net with. Is he going to find his goal scoring touch in this one? Honestly, I can't see all too many goals being scored in this one. We know how Forest like to set up under Lamucci. It's a very compact formation where they don't look to give a lot away to their opposition, and Cardiff in many ways under Neil Harris are quite similar actually. So I'd imagine that Forest will look to take the game to Cardiff a little bit more with them being at home, but we all know the reserved nature of Forest under Lamucci so far. There is a bit of negativity going on around both clubs, I feel like, after how they started the season quite disappointingly. It's really got the feeling of like a 0-0 or a 1-0 either way, this one, doesn't it? I don't think it's going to be the best spectacle this weekend. In terms of a score prediction, I'm going to edge Forest for this one. I thought they had a little bit more going forward against QPR at the weekend than Cardiff did against Sheffield Wednesday. I'll say 1-0 Forest. FIFA saying 1-1. It really could go either way, that one. And then after that we have Blackburn going up against Wycombe. Now the Wycombe game at the weekend against Rotherham set a championship record for the ball being in play for the least amount of time in championship history so far. Only 35 minutes and 50 seconds the ball was in play for that one. Obviously Wycombe have their own way of playing. They'll look to be compact in this one and pick their moments to go forward. And to be honest, in that game against Rotherham, they did have a couple of really good chances that they seemed to squander. Daryl Horgan probably with the best of the game, which he put over the bar. This Blackburn side at the weekend, they obviously lost out against Bournemouth, but in what was quite a thrilling match, 3-2 to Bournemouth in the end. Going forward, Blackburn looked quite sharp as they did last season. Adam Armstrong getting off the mark for this season. Defensively looked a little bit lax at times, but with the introduction of Daniel Ayala, you'd think that that would help with that. From what I've read so far, he's been in training with Blackburn, but it's not looking all too likely that he will feature for them this weekend. Long term this season though, I think that will be quite a sensible appointment. For this one really, like I say, Wycombe will look to frustrate. It's all about how soon Blackburn can get that first goal. For a prediction, I do think that Blackburn's quality may tell in this one. I'm going to go 2-0 to the home side, whereas FIFA is back in Wycombe for a 1-0 away victory. Coming up next, we then got Brentford going up against Huddersfield. Now Brentford frustrated from last week, that game against Birmingham, where they actually had the highest expected goals of the whole of the championship that weekend, but didn't hit the back of the net. They had several chances, and Birmingham having a few. They hit the post, hit the crossbar. It just didn't seem to be happening for them. But positive signs from their match in the EFL Cup in midweek. They played what was pretty much a full-strength Southampton team and beat them by 2-0. That Josh Da Silva goal, lovely worked goal for that one. Going up against this Huddersfield side, who they themselves lacking a bit of confidence at the moment. They lost on the opening weekend to Norwich. Obviously a tough start for Huddersfield going up against Norwich and then Brentford, two of the promotion favourites. But they've got quite a bit of injury news coming into this one. Lewis O'Brien's going to miss out again. The same for Danny Ward as well, who I think is struggling with a hamstring problem. Fraser Campbell has has been back in training, but I'm not sure if he will be ready or not to feature yet for them. They've also recently signed Naby Sarr, but he's self-isolating, so won't be able to be featured in this match. So Huddersfield still got a bit of work to do to assemble this squad for when the transfer window does shut. I think that Brentford will be looking to avenge that result from last week against Birmingham, and I do see them getting through this one. I'm going to go 2-0 Brentford, with FIFA saying it'll be a goalless draw. Coming up next, we then got Luton going up against Derby. Luton have been the masters of the 1-0 winners so far. At the weekend, they managed to see off Barnsley, beating them by 1-0. James Collins on the score sheet for that. Then in the EFL Cup in midweek, they beat Reading by 1-0. Jordan Clark getting his first goal for Luton after arriving from Accrington. And they're playing Derby at a decent time, I'd say, at the moment. They've not started the season out so brightly. They obviously lost to Reading on the opening weekend in the EFL Cup. They did rotate a little bit, but did lose to Preston, where another quite poor performance, especially going forward. They didn't really have much. Now, the signing of Joswet could change that. He's, of course, come over, completed a deal from the Polish League. Is he going to play straight away? It's going to be an interesting one. Derby are also going to be without Mike Tworek as well, as he was sent off in the game against Preston, so defensively they may be looking a little bit light for this one. Luton seem to have their game plan set for this season under Nathan Jones, and I think that especially going to Kenilworth Road this season, it'll be a really tough away game for most sides. They're not going to give away a lot of chances there. Score prediction, I'm going to fancy Luton again for another 1-0. You know, I don't think that Derby have completely got themselves set for this new season yet. Joswet may change their complexion going forward, but I'm going to back Luton for a 1-0, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 1-0 draw. Coming up next, we then got Middlesbrough up against Bournemouth. Obviously, my best wishes go out to Neil Warnock, who did come out with a positive test for coronavirus, so I wish him all the best in his recovery. It's going to be an interesting one, this, though. It is the first game of the weekend that we have where fans are allowed to attend, so up to 1,000 Middlesbrough fans will be in the stadium for this one, and it'll be interesting to see if that has any sort of effect on the result whatsoever, just having home fans in. As the season continues and that gets more and more regular, it's going to be an interesting case study. But up against this Bournemouth side, not going to be an easy one. Both sides were in action in midweek in the EFL Cup. Middlesbrough lost against Barnsley, whereas Bournemouth did manage to get past Crystal Palace on penalties. 11-10, it was an absolutely bonkers one. Both goalkeepers we saw taking penalties. Bournemouth probably should have won that one in normal time, really, with the amount of chances they've created, and that's the sort of way that Bournemouth like to play. We saw that last weekend with their game against Blackburn. Really fast football going forward, looking to get into the opposition's half. It will be a different game for Bournemouth, though, because Blackburn very much approached that game to look to press them, whereas Middlesbrough, I think, will be a little bit more standoffish. Borough didn't make a bad account of themselves from their opener against Watford. They just didn't quite have that quality to get back into the game when they fell behind. For this one, though, I've got a bit of a feeling that Bournemouth may get through it. I think they got a little bit more going forward. I'll go 2-1 to the away side, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. Coming up next, we then got the return of Alex Neil to Carrow Road, Norwich against Preston. Now, with Preston, it wasn't the greatest of starts to the season, albeit we created quite a few chances against Swansea. It was just that lack of cutting edge in the final third. However, I do think we've been given a bit of a confidence booster by that game in midweek against Derby. The pressing football was back. It was played at a high tempo, created a lot of chances. Tom Barkhusen scored an absolute worldie, and Daniel Johnson back involved with the squad as well after he was left out at the weekend. So, a bit more positivity coming into this one, albeit we do still have a bit of the contract issues to sort out. This Norwich side, though, is not going to be an easy ride, especially now Emi Buendia is in contention for this game after his suspension has now been served. I mean, Emi Buendia in the Championship, we don't need to say much about him. The guy absolutely tore it up last time. From those wide areas, that is where I'm a little bit concerned coming into this one. Norwich have an abundance of quality going forward. Arnold Hernandez caught my eye at the weekend, and I mean, it's the return of Jordan Hugo going up against North End. I think he can be quite an impact if he does get some time off the bench. Adam Ider, who scored a hat-trick against us last time when we played in the FA Cup as well. Norwich have got a bunch of options. If Preston do score first in this one, I do think we can frustrate Norwich and make it quite difficult for them, but if they do get that first goal, I think it's going to be tough for us. Realistically, I do think Norwich will probably come through this one. I'm going to go 2-0 to the home side. FIFA's going to agree with me. Hoping I'm proved wrong in that one, but I just think Norwich will have a bit too much for us. Next up to Reading against Barnsley. Now, both sides were in action in midweek in the EFL Cup. Reading pretty much unrecognisable from their side at the weekend. They made a lot of changes, lost against Luton. Barnsley got through their test against Middlesbrough, beating them by 2-0. In the league, though, it was an interesting start for each side. Lucas João getting off the mark for Reading in that fantastic away win they had against Derby, 2-0 in that game. Barnsley, it was the story of their season from last time, really, in the game against Luton, where they had a few openings in and around the final third. They just couldn't put anything away. They ended up losing that match. For this one, I expect it to be quite an open one going forward. Reading, when they are at full strength this season, I do back them to score quite a few goals, you know. I think that they've got a style of play about them at the moment that seems to work for them. But you know that this Barnsley side is going going to want to make it difficult for you, make you press you into those uncomfortable situations. For a score prediction, I'm just going to edge Reading for it. I'm going to go 2-1 with FIFA saying 1-1, but that could be a good watch this weekend. Then we got Rotherham against Millwall. Rotherham started their season well last weekend, winning by 1 goal to 0 away at Wycombe. A heck with that last minute header to get them all 3 points. Millwall, on the other hand, started out with a goalless draw against Stoke. You could tell that they were missing a couple of key players for that match. You know that Romeo and Woods both missed out, Troy Parrott as well. But from the EFL Cup win in midweek against Cheltenham, they have had some key players returning. So Romeo featured in that one, as did Woods. I think Woods in their midfield really is an integral part of that system, especially moving the ball forward. Troy Parrott, it looks as if he's not going to be available for this weekend. He's nearing getting back to full fitness, but it seems like this one's just come a little bit too soon. So Millwall have definitely got the pieces falling back into place for what will be, I think, a really strong starting 11 in the Championship. But Rotherham will look to make it tough for them, albeit in a much different match to the one they had last time out against Wycombe. You know, Millwall aside, who's a lot more comfortable on the ball. Set pieces, though, is no that we're going to play a big part of this one, and I don't see there being all too much in it. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw with FIFA back in Millwall for a 1-0 away victory. And then we get to Sheffield Wednesday against Watford. Now, a tough game to predict this weekend, I think. Sheffield Wednesday started the season out really positively against Cardiff with that 2-0 away victory, where a lot of people didn't really give them a chance, but their midfield seemed to have really good balance for that one. Barry Bannon, a standout player, and then Josh Windass and Jordan Rhodes seemed to work quite efficiently off each other as a forward too. And I think they will cause this Watford side a couple of problems, who certainly didn't look the finished article after their win against Middlesbrough. It's still very much a team that's got a lot of moving pieces going on in and around, you know, still quite a bit of transfer speculation in terms of who are the players who are still going to be there at the end of the transfer window. Luis Suarez, the latest player who I've seen been linked away, he's been linked with a move to Marseille recently, but Watford have completed the signing of Manchester United youngster James Garner coming on loan for the season. A lot of Championship interest in this guy for quite a number of seasons now, actually, so good positive signing from Watford, that good player in those deep positions to progress the ball moving forward. I think they could possibly come unstuck in this one. Well, listen, Wednesday had a bit of an abysmal record towards the end of the season at Hillsborough, didn't they? They're going to want to put that behind them, and I feel like I said in last time's preview, every match until Wednesday wipe out this minus 12 points, you feel like they're going to be right up for it. And it's not going to be an easy ride for Watford. I may think that Wednesday might get something from this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. FIFA's going to say it'll be goalless. Tough game to call there. Watford obviously have the quality, but Wednesday really have that grit and something to play for. Next up, we then got Swansea going up against Birmingham. Now, another tough one to call. Each side pulled off really good results on the opening day. Birmingham beating Brentford and Swansea beating Northend, both by 1-0. Birmingham's performance, great defensively, but they also have that bit of spark about them going forward, especially now with the signing of Scott Hogan. Birmingham will be hoping that they have the Scott Hogan from the start of 2020, who was absolutely lighting it up for them. His goal scoring record was superb prior to lockdown. But this Swansea side, from what I saw at Deepdale at least, it was a really efficient away performance defensively. They didn't give a lot away at all. And then moving forward, those two fullbacks, Jake Bidwell especially, gets really high up the pitch. They look to really stretch the game when they do go forward. AU has that vision about him to be able to spot a pass from nowhere. Gibbs White will be playing with confidence after he got off the mark with the goal at the weekend against Preston as well. And I also think that there's a bit of a partnership that's starting to develop between Jamal Lowe and Andre Ayew. I think that those two, if they do really manage to get in sync together, could be quite the lethal combo. I don't think they'll be ultimately goal scored in this one. What both sides showed at the weekend was that they're both capable defensively. I'm interested to see if Etheridge does come in for Birmingham for this one after how impressive G-Cock was last time out. I'm just edging towards Swansea. I think I'm going to go 1-0 to the home side. FIFA saying 1-1. I don't think there'll be all too much in that one, but I'm just edging Swansea. Last up, and on Sunday we then have Stoke against Bristol City. Now, a lot to like about each side at the moment. This is probably one of the more tougher predictions to make of this weekend. Both sides in action in the EFL Cup in midweek. Stoke with a really impressive away victory over Wolves. 1-0. Jacob Brown with his first goal for them. Really nicely worked goal, that one, albeit John Ruddy had a bit of a howler keeping it out, but really good defensive display. That's what we've seen under Michael O'Neill so far, especially at home. Stoke do not concede a lot of goals, but this Bristol City side seems to have the goal scoring touch at the moment. They put 4 goals past Northampton in the EFL Cup in midweek. Casey Palmer bagging a brace in that one. He's someone who I want to see get the game time for them this season. There's such a good player in there. We saw that at the start of last season under Lee Johnson, and his season just seemed to fizzle out a little bit with the lack of opportunities. But if he does get that run in the team, could be something quite special. Both sides started out the Championship season with solid results as well. Stoke with a goalless draw at the Den, where they probably had the better chances going forward and should have maybe killed that one off. Bristol City, on the other hand, getting that late winner against Coventry. I think with the way that Stoke set up at home, it could be a frustrating one for Bristol City. It's got the feeling that it's going to be a 1 goal in it. I'm just going to back Stoke, I think, for a 1-0. Whereas FIFA saying it'll be 2-0 Bristol City, so not much to split those two at the moment. But guys, there we have it there, all my championship predictions coming into this weekend. So as always, all of this weekend's fixtures will be in the description down below so that you guys can go ahead and make your predictions for a chance to be involved in the next video. Get them in the comments down below. In terms of what my fantasy football team's looking like, I've decided to make one transfer this weekend. I'm bringing in Jake Bidwell. I was just so impressed by his performance at Deepdale and how high he actually plays up for Swansea. Have the feeling that he may get a couple of points for me. So if you've not already, make sure to go ahead and join the Fantasy Football League. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up. So if you did go in to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and please do subscribe for a bit of regular championship content. But apart from that, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.